and its energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10-12 lengths.
We're back on the road to Cheltenham Challenge. I'm married. Ronan Groome has had his fill of turkey, and it's a blockbuster episode. We missed a couple of Ronan with the Christmas, with the festivities, weddings and all sorts. So it's a blockbuster episode of 5, 6 and 7. So 3 selections will be given on this show, unless Ronan Groome wants to maybe put in another wild card, like he done with Heaven Help Us before the Christmas period. And she ran well, Ronan. But great to be back on the show. You can see our selections down below. I'm sure people have lots of selections to put in the comments, and we look forward to seeing that. We will be given, as I said, 3 selections at the end of the show, 3 selected performance over the Christmas that stuck out to, I suppose, myself and Ronan. Lots to digest on this show. An over and under section, like we always do. So taking a performance that we felt was overrated, and one that was underrated. So we'll be looking at that, each of us, and 2 tracker horse entries. After all the Christmas racing, we'll be picking 2 horses each to stick into the tracker, and then of course digesting what we've already put up to date. But Ron, it's good to be back.
Good to be back, and so viewers and listeners will be happy to know we're still alive, and especially you, Barry, seeing as you're now a married man. How's that treating you? Are you feeling any different now when you get up every day, or what's the story?
Still getting used to the ring now. To be fair, but it's I'm a lot more loved up, Ronan Groome. It's all ahead of you. You can see our selections below. We will be going through them, but we're not going to do a big race review because there was too many big races to look at. But selected performance for myself and Mr. Groome. Ronan, we'll start with you. We might go 1 performance on, 1 performance off. How about you? Give us a performance that stuck out to you over the Christmas period.
Yeah, it's obvious one, Barry, I guess. But wanted to talk about the main action, and Galvin in the Savills, just the Savills in general, is a race I think we need to talk about, because Galvin, the winner now, he would have been a bit underrated for me going in. Well, generally seems to be underrated, I mean, and was kind of coming in a bit under the radar. Obviously, all the chat about Absolute Tard, and he's the Gold Cup favourite, and he was so good at Haydock. And Galvin had finished second up to Frodon, and even going into the Savills itself, the race, the Down Royal race, got a bit of a knock. The form obviously got a bit of a knock with Frodon not running so well, and Manila Indo obviously bombing out in Kempton. So Galvin, for all means and purposes, was a bit under the radar for me. Even Gordon Elliott saying beforehand he was just going to hunt him around and see if he could pick up some prize money, that sort of talk. So for him to go and win at Leopardstown, and a really good staying performance, really power-packed drive from Davy at the end, I thought that was a huge performance now, and a really kind of coming-of-age performance for a horse that has a tremendous win record, really. When you look through it, he's 12 wins from 19 races. He's only been beaten once. Second in that Down Royal race was his only defeat in the last 2 seasons. And for me, he's a huge contender for the Gold Cup now. I don't know what you think, Barry, but I think he's got it all, really. He's not a second season chaser, he's a third season chaser. He's been on the go 3 seasons now, but he has that kind of second season chaser profile, if you know what I mean. He's only kind of coming to his pomp now. He's got form at Cheltenham. He was second to Imperial Aura in the race that's no longer there, the Close Brothers, and then he won obviously the 4 miler. The 4 milers often can be a good guide to the Gold Cup as well. You know he's going to stay. You know that 2.5 furlongs will suit him even more. So for me, you know, the sort of price he is now for the Gold Cup's got me interested anyway. I wonder what you thought.
Yeah, I was going to talk a little bit about Galvin later on in the show. For me, Absolute Tard, I'm not sure if he ran to the line. I'm not sure if that was the Absolute Tard that we saw, certainly at Haydock last year. But even last year in the Savills, I just don't think he ran to the line as much. Envoy just a length and a half back in third. So for me, I don't know. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on the show. This was first performance I wanted to mention was what the hell was that thing in the bumper that Willie Mullins unleashed? He unleashed a couple, but Redemption Day for Tim O'Driscoll. I was reading the Sport and Life column after a sort of a review, and really was kind of going through the horse that he brought out in bumpers. Obviously, Facile Vega was mighty impressive. Son of Corvega, and the other one that he was at Embassy Gardens from the Mulrynes. I think that horse will probably improve, but the one for me to take out of it was Redemption Day. I thought he was mightily. He showed an unbelievable turn of foot. Travelled to the race with ultimate ease, and if I was on American Mike, anyone else on American Mike, I'd be a little bit worried because Willie, I think, holds the aces. I'd rather be in the Mullins camp than I suppose in the American Mike camp. Maybe there could be a lot more to come out, but that was a mighty impressive performance for me. One maybe that a lot of, I suppose, people wouldn't have heard about. Performance number 2 was Love Envoy. It's a mare. It's actually priced up now off the back of her second start and second win in the UK. Made it 2 from 2 in Britain at Warwick. Priced up for the mare's novice hurdle at 20-1 off the back of it. And it's the Noel Feely Racing Club syndicate. So Noel has obviously done a lot of work getting syndicates together, getting people into the game. But this mare now, I thought she absolutely tanked through the race on both her starts. And she was a point-to-point winner for Sean Doyle in Wexford. A point-to-point bumper winner, in Wexford for Sean Doyle. Obviously went to the UK and is 2 from 2 now. But the way she tanked through the race, she got to the front, she idled. Johnny Burkwater gave her a couple of smacks, and she really picked up again. I thought there was a lot more in the tank from her. And that was over 2 mile 4. I saw in the comments afterwards Harry Fry talking about dropping her back a furlong to 2 mile 3 at Sandown. But I think this horse, the way she travelled, she'd have no problem dropping back in trip again. So I think she might be a player at a big old price in a mare's novice hurdle. That division looks competitive. What about selected performance for you, number 2?
Yeah, I just want to. I'm sticking on the 3 mile chaser route again because I think we need to talk about the King George. It was a fascinating race. I don't know what you thought of it, Barry, but maybe you'll give your view now in a second. But yeah, it was fascinating for a number of reasons. There's so many angles you can take from it, like Manila Endo's run. I think the feeling beforehand was that he was always going to kind of go up there with Frodon or go a bit further or race a bit more prominently and try and the cheek pieces. That's what the whole intention was. But even me going into the race, I just felt that Kempton, and it was echoed by a few people, it never felt right that Kempton was going to be his sort of track. And I know they wanted to split them up, him and Absolute Tard, and he got beaten at Leopardstown last season. So to an extent, they were trying something different. But he got found out pretty quick there, Kempton, and obviously ran a lot more poorly than Darren Royal, which would be similar type of right hand, obviously flat track as well. And that would kind of worry you, but I wouldn't give up on him. I think there's been a slight overreaction to his run there. Just got done for pace and speed, and it just found them out at the end. The other angles to the race, obviously, Tornado Flyer was the winner, and he came through really nicely. But I just felt the race really kind of fell into his lap as such, and I know that's a kind of widely held view, reading kind of some of people's opinions on the race as well, but going forward, out of 2, him and the Savills winner, Galvin, I'd be very much taking Gordon Elliott's horse. But a couple of other angles there. Obviously, Clande's Oboe raced a bit closer to the pace as well. And it was very interesting to read Paul Nicholls' view. He's quite annoyed with Gavin Sheeton's ride on St. Calvados. Thought he sent him on too soon. And he even thought that was a double whammy for him, that it hurt Clande's Oboe's chance as well, because Harry Cobden had to commit him after St. Calvados kind of went by him. So it's just very kind of interesting race. I wondered what you thought of it as well from a pace for the timings to tell you that they finished very slowly and it was a very fast run race, and Tornado Flyer just kind of picked up the pieces towards the end. And even Asterion Forlange, like what a run that was. And I actually think he could be even better over further again, Asterion Forlange, if he could just jump around. And you know, the right-handed thing is a bit of a worry as well. What race you run him, and maybe you'll go back to Punchestown for the Gold Cup there. But yeah, just so many angles, Barry. I just wondered what you thought as well.
I was reading a piece, was a Simon Rowlands wrote about the pace angle in the King George. So like what you said, it was a fast run race, strange run from Manila Endo. But again, I suppose you could take a couple of horses out of it. Asterion, obviously, the unfortunate story comes down again. But St. Calvados, to me, turned in. I thought they ran quite a good race. He turned in, and again, he looked like the winner for was it last year? He turned in traveling all over, the eventual winner as well. I think St. Calvados, his trip is 2.5 miles, and I think over 2.5 miles back at Cheltenham. Did he lose his race last year in the King George? It'd be interesting to see how he comes out of it. But for me, he'd be the horse. I don't think he is a 3-miler. They've obviously tried that now. But that's I suppose after Allaho, the Ryanair division, what else do you give a chance to in there? And that I see chalked up at 14-1, 16-1 for the Ryanair. As I say, he travelled into the race looking like the winner once again. Danny Mullins has timed it to perfection. But a strange race. I'm not sure.
Not sure on that, Barry, bring you in with your selection now. Janadil, you liked him for the Gold Cup. What do you think of his run in the Sables? Would you think he'd be going Ryanair route now?
Yeah, didn't Willie say that Mark Walsh reported he didn't stay. It was disappointing. But I think he's a non-stayer. So yeah, you give him a chance in a Ryanair, absolutely. Do you want to go for your last selection, or shall I? How about you go for it?
I'll go for it. And people, you might think I'm just winding you up here, but we have to talk about Shishkin.
Oh, Christ.
Because look, he's just been such a talk horse this year. Obviously, the whole thing with the Dingle Creek was annoying. But I think actually a lot of people, and myself maybe, were maybe a bit too quick to jump the gun there with Nicky Henderson. And then obviously at the time, the news about the Dingle Creek came out later that the horse had been suffering from some sort of infection after, which everyone didn't really know at the time. So people were right to feel a bit annoyed that he didn't run in the Dingle Creek. But he came back and he looked as good as ever, if not better. And for me, the performance screamed of Altior, the way he raced. He kind of came off the bridle, and for a split second, you're kind of thinking Grenadine's gone off, and Shishkin was coming off the bridle, and you're thinking, Jesus, he's under a bit of trouble here. But he really powered home, showed loads of pace in what was a kind of slowly run race, and it's fascinating now, really, isn't it? I know you're a big Energamine fan, and that's kind of why I picked this race, because I wanted to see what you thought about the way that market is shaping up. And I very much doubt they're going to meet each other in the Ascot race, the Clarence House, which I believe Energamine goes for. I'd say Nicky probably wants to go to Newbury. It isn't the Game Spirit. So yeah, where odds on now, Shishkin, it's not for me, it's not a bet I'd have, but I just thought he was brilliant on this comeback there. He's obviously, and the thing with him and Energamine is Shishkin's obviously got that course and distance festival form, which Energamine won't get until Cheltenham. So we're just not sure about how he'll act around the course. And that's, for me, the way that market is shaped up nicely, that you kind of have to have Shishkin on performance and on his record at Cheltenham ahead of Energamine. So what do you think?
Well, my opinion hasn't changed. If you want to, you're not winding me up, Ronan Groome. I'd say you probably are right there. I think probably Nicky might dodge the clash. And I'm just wondering the reasons why Energamine didn't run. Did you hear anything? Was it maybe the ground? Was it maybe on the quicker side?
He didn't run in at Lemberside, you mean? I think Willie had earmarked that for Chacun Poursois and said we're going to go to Ascot with Energamine, and then he was kind of annoyed with himself when they ruled out Chacun Poursois, but they were training him, so he's kind of just had Ascot in mind for him. They wanted to split them up, and then it was just annoying the way it worked out. I think that's what he said after.
Yeah, I think Ascot will suit Energamine. I suppose the way he stays, he's a staying 2 miler. That look, he's jumping. For me, nothing changes. Shishkin, I thought it was turned into a bit of a sprint, didn't it? I think you were right in what you said there. It was a strange sort of race. So, but look, what does it prove? Shishkin's alive and well. The clash is set to probably happen this season, which is great for jumps racing. But to be honest, I think Energumene, he chews him up and spits him out. Okay, third performance for me. It was a combination. I think Concertista is a rock solid favourite now, off the back of her 2 runs over fences. Disappoint. Just must mention condolences to Mick Winters with Stacey Gold, long-term friend of the Champ.ie podcast. But she was, obviously in the same race. But I thought it was a brilliant ride actually by Sean O'Keefe. It was very measured. The one that went off in front set an absolute endless gallop, and she came back to the field. But the patience of Sean O'Keefe, but I think the way she jumps her fences, Willie said in the aftermath, she doesn't give much air to her fence. She's very economical, but it's almost unassuming. And I've been very impressed with the way she's taken the fences. And for me, I know you like Ellie May, but I think she deserves to be favoured. There was lots of other standout performances over the Christmas. Galop and the Champ was phenomenal. And last year, just on Galop and the Champ, I do want to mention him because I'm very interested in your thoughts here on this horse, because at the back of Cheltenham last year, I initially thought the Marsh Chase, 2.5 miles. We've seen it with lots of Willies. Like Allaho, for example, was that type of horse who you were thinking, ran in the Albert Bartlett, for example, but 2.5 miles over fences. That's where I thought he'd go. He went to the RSA Chase, or the Festival Novice Chase at the time, and didn't quite get home. What did you think of Galop and the Champ's run? Because I thought he was very quick over his fences. In actual fact, down the back, he looked very, very pacey. And I'd just be interested to see, will they go to Cheltenham now without having tried him over 3 miles? I don't think 3 miles is going to be an issue, because obviously he won a Punchestown last year. But I thought where did he win his race? For me, he won it in the middle part, where he jumped them all to sleep.
I think that's a really good point, actually, because there seems to be this clamouring for him to run in the 3 mile race. Obviously, he won the 3 mile grade 1 at Punchestown, so that's where that comes from. But if you look at what he's going to run in now, he runs. He's obviously won over the 2.5 there, so the natural next target for him would be to run in the 2 mile 5 grade 1 at Dublin Racing Festival. So in that case, he'll have one more run in that race, and both of his wins will be over 2 miles and 5 furlongs. So what do you do then? And I think Ruby Walsh made the same point as well. He was just thinking, well, maybe the Turners, I think it's called the Turners race now in the Marsh, is the option for him. Obviously, he's a 2.5 mile hurdle winner over Cheltenham, and extended 2.5 miles on that new course as well. So I'm just wondering, where all this assumption, or it just seems to be a general assumption that he'll go 3 miles, and he probably will in time. But Willie's often kept one for the 2.5 and thought, like Sir de Champs is the first that springs to mind. He ran him in the 2.5 race, the Marsh race, and obviously stepped up to 3 miles the next season. So 7-1, I think, available for the Turners. Like, if you were kind of betting between those two races, it would seem more 50-50 to me at the moment what Willie's going to do. And here we are trying to second guess Willie Mullins. We never know, but I'd be inclined to agree with you, Barry. Yeah, I think that we shouldn't completely assume that he'll go 3 miles now, especially considering his next race and his grade 1 race is going to be over 2 miles, 5 furlongs as well.
You've tried to pick a couple of horses maybe that love Envoy. Concertista maybe wasn't given the credit that she deserved for her 2 chase starts, but Galop and the Champ for me, I think, did I see a headline, the sexiest thing was Dave Jennings, the sexiest thing on 4 legs that I've seen in quite some time, and I have to agree. It was a flawless beginner's chase. Really was. And, he was straight as a gun barrel. Absolutely no doubt that the horse is going to stay 3 miles. But just the fact that, I felt as though he won the race. He put it to bed down the back with his jumping. So what do you do? Is it kind of like a Mike Bite scenario where RSA, you just let him go and let him tear at his fences, have a cut at all his fences, and suddenly he's 20 lengths turning in, but maybe just goes and wins by 20 lengths. I don't know, but it is interesting in the betting at the moment. He's shorter than 2-1. He's 2.78. I think I saw on Betfair for the Festival Novice Chase, and I think it was in around 7.6 or something for the marsh. So is it assuming that, like, what if something, Bob Ollinger, we've seen him once, like, is that the route he goes? Look, it seems to me that it's Willie Mullins, and is it set in stone that he goes to the Festival Novice? We'll wait and see. Next section of the show, Ronan Groome, is, I was going to go in with the tracker, but let's talk over and under. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll do both mine at the same time, and then maybe you can give your opinion or react. But yeah, underrated. I'm going a high senior, which I'd inclined to think that you might agree with me here. I just thought there was a bit of an overreaction to his run behind Brave Man's Game in the Cotto Star. Obviously, obviously Brave Man's Game was quite impressive in that, but that was a more slowly kind of run race than usual, and obviously that was a high senior in front. Just didn't jump well. It didn't seem to get into a rhythm for me, and kind of got outspeeded to me at the end of the race. I would think that a track like Cheltenham would suit him more, down the line, kind of undulations, front runner like him, and I just thought the reaction to push him out, I think he's 10-1, maybe something for the RSA now, was just a bit overreaction, and with a bit more practice, he just needs to jump better, doesn't he? I think they're talking about running them once more before Cheltenham. With another run under his belt, I would have thought that he could be pretty much a live proposition still for the Festival Novice Chase going into that. My overrated, I was trying to go through the winners and pick one out. I just thought Fury Road maybe would be one to take on the Neville Hotels Novice Chase winner at Leopardstown. Now, he's a horse I like, Fury Road, and for me, he's just never really delivered. He was a 3-mile hurdler last season, and he was backed off the boards a couple of times. Real confidence behind him. He went off like 4-1 for the stayers, interestingly enough. Really well back that morning and just pulled up. So he's had a couple of problems, I think, niggly problems as well, physically. And yeah, he looked nice when he won, but Run Wild Fred, I'm going to talk about him in a bit in a later section. He absolutely walloped the fence there down the back the first time. He nearly went through it. And I think that probably took his toll on him. Vanillier in that race just never seemed to get into a jumping rhythm. Maybe the ground was just a bit too dry for him as well. And I was trying to think, the horse who finished third would be a lowly enough rated horse, and the name escapes me at the moment. I just think that form of that race might be a bit suspect, and Fury Road going forward might be a bit suspect, albeit I respect the fact that the cheek pieces might have made a difference to him there as well. So he'd just be one I'd be taking on. I thought he was more or less the same price, I think, as a high senior, or roughly the ballpark same price as him for the Festival Novices Chase, and I'd take the Lucinda Russell horse there in a match pretty comprehensively, I have to say.
Interesting. You're going to love this one. My overrated performance is Galvin. If this horse goes and wins the 2022 Gold Cup, I'll be disappointed, I must say. Like you're looking at there, like, A Plutard for me, phenomenal. And what did he beat in Haydock? But I'm not sure if this horse ran the form. And in fairness to Galvin, look, he's a good yardstick. He's a Cheltenham Festival winner. You'd have to think a step up and trip going to the festival, an extra 2 furlong is going to help him. But for me, it got a little bit outpaced, and it was like as if the ones who hit the front came back to him, as opposed to. I'm just not sure. The Gold Cup is absolutely wide open. I thought Album Photo, without going off topic, he could be the value in the Gold Cup market at the moment. It's absolutely wide open. So Galvin has his chance, but Jesus, what is he? 6-1 for the Cheltenham Gold Cup. He changed typical Davy Russell, wasn't he? He was outpaced. He stayed on. For me, you look back, Aplutar beats Kenboy a short head. Kenboy's had 21 runs over fence. Obviously, runs well at Leopardstown. But they've come out of hard races. The likes of Kenboy, Mellon, they're all in behind there. Jaladil Shep, like an on there. They've come out of a very hard race. In the John Durkin. For me, that's a short. That's a bit skimpy now for me. That price, and I'm not sure, Ronan, if I'd be in the Galvin camp. And underrated, Porticello. I see you're giggling there. What are you giggling at?
I'm just laughing at the fact that I put up Galvin. Galvin's going to be one of my selections now coming forward.
Okay.
And he's there
Galvin got a lot of mentions. Porticello, the juvenile. This horse, he's had 3 runs now. He was actually beaten on a second start in the UK. Chepstow. I thought it was a good performance. They took the last 2 hurdles out, so it was virtually a flat race. After the turn in, a horse came down in front of him. I thought he jumped at a strong pace. This Porticello, I think, is very talented. And for me, that was an underrated performance. He jumps very well. He came from France with a big reputation. Is he 14-1 best price with 2 firms for the Triumph Hurdle? I saw comments afterwards. I saw comments after the race that Jamie Moore had said that he wasn't even sure if Gary would run him. He's won his Grade 1. They're looking maybe potentially minding him for next year. For me, they have to run in a Triumph Hurdle after that. Goshen, obviously, he's an absolute brute of a horse, this Porticello. And I think he's probably the best of the British juveniles at the moment that we've seen. So he's a Grade 1 winner. He's 2 from 3 starts in the UK. And the second horse actually at Chepstow, Saint Gal, was very well supported and ran a good race as well. They've come well clear of the likes of Orico, Magistrato, T's the C's. So I think that was a strong race. Chepstow is a track I kind of like going into Cheltenham. So undulating, big galloping track. And I think with hurdles left in going forward, I think that will only suit Porticello the way he jumps. And I think he'd be a better horse next year and the year after as well, by Shalakov. So that one for me was an underrated performance. I thought he was quite good. Won by 8.5 lengths at Chepstow, the Carl Finale Juvenile Hurdle. So, yeah, that's, I suppose, that. Tracker horse, Ronan Groome. What have you got for me?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I really like the horse of Oliver McKiernan's down in Limerick. One on the 28 or 29, I can't remember. Gatsby Gray won a maiden hurdle there, pulled away nicely, recorded a very nice time. And I'd be very interested to see where he goes forward. Maybe he needs soft ground, and I was very heavy down in Limerick, as I'm sure people would have noticed if you watched any race in Limerick. The ground was very heavy. Maybe that's important to him, but I was quite impressed with what he did there. He pulled away nicely, and as I said, he put up a nice time. I really like the horse called Hillcrest, who won very recently on New Year's Day at Cheltenham.
He's gorgeous, Ronan. Massive.
Did you see the size of him?
Holy Christ. This thing never even got a slap. And you're looking at Ian Maximus back in second. God, I forgot about him. He was meant to be in my performances of the,
I don't know where he's going to go. That's why I was going to ask you. He's won there over 2.5, but naturally the way he won, I kind of thought you might go up and trip with him, but it kind of...
I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say from the front in something like a Ballymore if he wanted to come back to the festival.
Yeah, he's just so big. You're just wondering, will he be able to hold his own in a Grade 1 against the Irish novices? I don't know, but he's absolutely worth following from here, especially when he goes over fences next season. And the last one, slightly personal one, but I did an interview with the guys owners with Gordon, who do KTDA racing. They own Mount Ida. Met them at Fairy House, actually, two great guys, and obviously they're delighted with her, how she won. She beat Ellie May there in the Grade 3, and the dream with her now is to go and win, or go for the Grand National, and she's got a Mayor's Chase as well, I think they're going to take in, so be interesting to see how that goes. But she obviously won the Kimura last season, if you remember. That was a remarkable kind of win. She was 999 in running at the top of the hill, and then one come through by 6 lengths. So she's unexposed over a trip, but she'd be really interested in the national. I presume it's the Aintree National that they're thinking about, but obviously she's a Fairy House winner as well, so maybe the Irish one is in the pipeline as well. But she's got to be a big player now in the Mayor's Chase, obviously beating Ellie May. I know you like Concertista, but she's Mount Ida is a classy enough mare, and she's obviously a festival winner as well, so looking out for her going forward as well.
Interesting. Hillcrest, how the hell did I forget about him? This thing, Jesus, he was mighty. He was headed, wasn't he, for a stride by Aya Maximus, and you just think the style of the horse, you just think, okay, that's his race ran, because you don't think he's going to quicken again, but he does. I'd say this lad has a bottomless pit of ability. Hillcrest. I was the way he actually jumped beautifully. Imagine that thing over a fence. So yeah, he's certainly one that I'd be keeping on the right side of. It was hands and heels. He didn't even get a smack. Very impressive, and absolutely ate the hill up. Okay, slightly less flashy. We're going to Taunton on the 30th, when everyone was sick of turkey and ham, and some people were maybe battered and bruised after some of the Christmas racing, or maybe we're turning a blind eye. But there was a horse, actually, the trainer Colin McKeever hails from County Louth. This was a point-to-point winner for Colin McKeever, and ran at Taunton, went off a big old price. I think it was 28-1. Was his debut for Jeremy Scott. I like Jeremy Scott as a trainer, but this thing was ridden cold. In behind the Nichols horse was what was the horse? It was beaten by Lossiemount at Sandown. Oh, the name is after escaping me now. But the Nichols horse is rated 130. This thing was ridden cold, and I thought he travelled through the race very, very nicely, and rattled home. Absolutely rattled home. I thought it was going to beat the Nichols horse in the end. The winner's rated 133. This fella will be winning races. I just like the way he moved through the race. It was his debut, as I say, 2 mile 3 furlongs. This thing, I think, will be winning races. That's Bally Black. So put that in your tracker. Watch it back. Bally Black. By Scirocco. Tracker horse number 2, Max Flamingo, Francis Casey. You mentioned Fury Road in the Grade 1 at Leopardstown. I thought he was quite impressive, Fury Road, to be fair. I thought he stepped forward, going up and trip with the cheek pieces on for the first time. And what is it 159? Run Wild Fred is rated. So it was a good spanking he gave to him. You look in behind the Albert Bartlett winner, Vanillier. But I thought the one that ran a very good race, he's rated 127 over hurdles, and was having his third run over fences, Max Flamingo. He's only a 6-year-old. He was a winner of a handicap, full value winner for a handicap at Fairy House last Easter. And Francis Casey only has a handful of horses. I thought this lad ran a very eye-catching race. He was getting into contention, jumped well, all in all. It was his first try over 3 miles. As I say, he won a Fairy House over 2 mile 6 over hurdles last year. I think keep an eye on this lad, the mark maybe that this lad gets. Maybe something like to run as a novice in an Irish national, maybe back at Fairy House in the Easter. Max Flamingo is a horse that I think will a big spring handicap over 3 miles plus. I think maybe worth keeping in the tracker for later on in the season. So Max Flamingo was impressed by the run. Put Blue Sari in your tracker. JP McManus. We're talking about novices going for, this was Novice is going into handicap company. Gorham Park, don't forget he won a bumper in Gorham Park. Maybe a TS days for something like Blue Surrey. JP McManus. I like Do Your Job as well. Finished well behind Edwardstone, and I like that performance from Edwardstone. I think Do Your Job going up in trip. He looks like a massive big horse, and he's a very sound jumper of a fence. I thought it was a good performance. I know he got bet 10 lengths by Edwardstone, but I think Edwardstone is a contender genuinely for the Arkle. You're looking at, just on that as well, are we in danger on this show of, because of what happened last year, Ireland versus the UK, what was it, 23? What was the final score last year? Are we in danger of overlooking the English horses coming into this year?
No, that's a good point, because you could probably 23.5 was outrageous and might never happen again, but it might be close enough this year again. But maybe some of the British horses that put up good performances don't get looked at as much. And Edwardstone is definitely a viable contender. I thought he was really good. His time was actually quicker than Shishkin, which is obviously a function with the way the races were run. But I'll just a quick shout as well to see what you thought about not giving up on Riviere de Tel after that run against Fernie Hollow. Obviously, the thoughts going into that race where people were thinking if she has any kind of time that she's going to beat Fernie Hollow, it's got to be today, getting £13. But I thought that was a seriously run race, and she'll still get £7 at Cheltenham, and she'll be a bit older, or maybe grown a bit. She's only 5-year-old now, just turned 5-year-old, so wouldn't give up on her. I thought she could have done with jumping the last as well, which was obviously omitted because the other Mullins runner made a mess of it on the first circuit. So interesting. And just a quick shout as well for Master McShee down in Limerick. Thought that was a brilliant story. Delighted for connections there. Paddy Corkery, Ian Power, great story. The horse he beat was backed off the boards, Farouk Delen, which actually links to your Blue Surrey form there as well. I think he beat him the first day over fences, and he'd won on a bug in Limerick the year before. So maybe that was in the thinking there that he was going to go really well at Limerick again, and Master McShee came and got him, and could be a little underrated going forward again. He was a good herder last year, Master McShee, won nicely at Leopardstown, and maybe the wheels just came off after that. I think he bled maybe once, or he had some sort of issue. So interesting to see how he goes going forward. Maybe they'll go back to 2 miles or look at 2.5 again. He's unexposed over 2.5 miles, so that could be interesting for him.
Well, we're absolutely starving the viewers, and this thing is going along the bottom since the show started. So we are going to pick up briefly just on our selections today before going in for the juggler, Ronan Groome, on the Road to Cheltenham Challenge, the bumper episode, where we're technically covering episode 5, 6, and 7 all together in one episode. So go for it. We'll wait till it flashes up, Ronan Groome. There you are, Ronan Groome, Cheltenham 2022. Portfolio. Kick us off with Ellie May.
Yeah, not great. She's still alive, but 8-1 now for the Mayor's Chase, beaten twice, just hasn't looked as good. Allaho, nothing changed there. Still rock solid for the Ryanair. Stature, disappointed not to see her now over Christmas. Thought she was going to go for the 2 mile grade 1. As I just mentioned about Riviere de Tel, I still keep the faith with her. She has it to do to beat Fernie Hollow again, but we'll get £7 to the Cheltenham. And Fakar Duderies, that was the kind of thoughts behind him when he was going for the Arkle. He won't get his allowance to Cheltenham. He still ran a huge race behind the subsequent Champion Chase winner next year. Put the kettle on. San Felician never ran on New Year's Eve, which was the intended plan for him. He was meant to run on New Year's Eve in the conditions hurdle at Punchestown. So just holding fire on him. Obviously, I'd like to see him run again and have him for any race. And heaven help us, as you mentioned, Barry, delighted with her run in the Mayor's race. Just got caught on the line, which is disappointing, and backed her on the day as well. But I think she's a big player for the Mayor's hurdle now. 33-1 was a big price. I think she's around 10 now, and I think getting back to Cheltenham is key to her. So not too bad. Nothing. That's probably my best bet of the whole portfolio so far. So we'll have to play for still.
Yeah, I like the way you snuck in Heaven Help Us. She ran an absolute stormer, didn't she? to be fair. So, yeah, I think you have a live player there, Ronan Groome, at 33-1, I must say. My portfolio, Mighty Potter, 25-1 for the Supreme Novices Hurdle. Now, this is an enigma. I'd say there's a split in the camp on which way to go with him, whether to go Ballymore or Supreme. On the performance itself, he wasn't as keen this time. I think they probably did go a quicker gallop. Leopardstown probably suited him better than Fairyhouse. He jumped better, I felt. And he's come there, to win his race. And I think this thing will absolutely eat the hill up. So wherever he goes, whether he goes for the Supreme or the Ballymore, I'm holding my fingers crossed that I'm on the right one with the Supreme Novices Hurdle. I think it's he's shorter as of last night. I think he shortened up for the Ballymore more so, but off the back of Ginto's win yesterday, probably not sure which way to go with him. Even though he looks like a stayer, I would take a chance at this stage that I'm on the right situation here, that he does go for the Supreme. I think good to soft ground. I think he will improve. He reminds me. He's more of an, like, if you look at some of the Supreme Novice hurdlers of the past, this lad kind of reminds me of Jeski, who finished. Where did he finish in the Supreme? Was it third? Went on to win a champion hurdle. He's built like a real national hunt horse. He travels well through his races. I just think for a stride or two, you're kind of thinking, is he going to get done for a turn of foot? But I think the faster they go, the better it's going to suit him. And it takes a stayer to win a Supreme. And for me, he's a live chance. I'm quite happy with that at 25-1. John Bon, obviously in Constitution Hill, who we'll probably see this weekend, they took up a large part of the market. Whether you agree with that or you don't, I think at this stage, Mighty Potter, worried to go to Supreme route, as good a chance as any of them, based on what we've seen. He is a Grade 1 winner, over 2 miles rolling. So it'll be interesting to see. What's your thoughts on him quickly?
Yeah, I think he will go to Supreme. I thought he did it nicely in that race. It was a good race. A bit disappointing with largely debut there. Didn't run as well as the market kind of expected of him. And I wasn't worried about Three Stripe Life either. A horse we mentioned at the start of the season when we were talking doing things. I thought he was a little unlucky, but he was strong at the line, Mighty Potter even. And I'd say that the natural route for him is to go back for the 2 mile Grade 1 again at the Dublin Racing Festival. So in that case, you'd have him in two 2 mile races all the way up to Cheltenham. So take it off for them then to go up and trip. So
it's very much alive anyway, Mighty Potter.
I'd say so,
for the Supreme Novices Hurdle, 25-1 is quite a big price. So is an Urgemine at 5-1. He's my team captain for the season, and yeah, let's hope Shishkin runs, and let's hope he puts him in his place and he goes odds on then for a champion chase, huh? An Urgemine, 5-1. Delighted with that. Magic Days 20-1 for the Arkle chase. I don't even know where she is, but she ran an absolute stinker down in Cork against Concertista. No disgrace getting beaten by Concertista, but if she was winning an Arkle, you'd want to see her out again. You'd want to see her winning over 2 miles.
Stinker is harsh. She did it. The stinker is harsh. I'd say I wouldn't rip the ticket up in there, but she's yeah.
No, yeah, well, yeah, fair enough. I'm not sure about it though. For the Arkle at this point, based on our last run, Janadel 50-1 for the Gold Cup. That was a speculative long range effort, and that isn't happening. Neither is Sporting John. Another JP effort he was week 3 selection for the Stewards Hurdle. And the next one is interesting, Ronan Groome. The next one is interesting. It's another JP McManus horse, and it's Capodanno, 20-1 for the National Hunt Chase. Now, tell me, what are the rules and conditions for the National Hunt Chase? Because you'll probably be able to rattle it off better than I will. But he's going to need a couple of runs, isn't he?
Yeah, he needs 3 runs, I think, isn't it? 3 runs at least to get in.
And he's going to have to run over 2.5 miles. Now, this horse was quite keen. Look, he's a gorgeous horse. You could go for any of the 3 races. You could probably go for the Marsh, You could probably go for the Festival Novice or the National Hunt Chase. I love the way he won though, because he was a bit buzzy early in the race. Jumped very well, but made a horrendous mistake at the last at Naas. So we put him in before his run at Naas. So he beats Gallard de Menil in the race, who went off a warm order, and he stays on all the way to the line after making a shuddering mistake at the last. So I was impressed the way he stuck at it, and I think this horse, I'm quite confident he'll go for this race. If the exchanges are anything to go by, we're kind of crabbing the exchanges a minute ago, but he's a lot shorter than 20 to 1. And that comment that sticks out to me, Willie Mullins said in his pre-season tours, every jockey wants to ride him. So would it be Derek O'Connor? Would it be Patrick Mullins? If he was to go that route, let's hope he'd have every chance, but needs a couple more runs, obviously. But Capadano is a horse I love long term anyway. Ronan Groome, talk to me. Selection. Go for it. Number 1 for you. Selection.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about it because we've talked plenty about him before, but I'm getting Galvin in for the Gold Cup. And I know you.
What price?
6 to 1. Generally available across the board for the Gold Cup. I think he's coming force in the Stay and Chase division. Got the Cheltenham form already. He's stay all day, and he's going straight there as well, which is always kind of helpful. He doesn't need to run again, and he'll go well fresh. The ground will be fine. He's a good ground type of horse. I think he's rock solid. So more than willing to take 6 to 1 in a division that's been blown wide open now with a few indifferent performances over Christmas.
Okay, you're looking for a selection for me, are you?
Are we going select? Do you want me to do all 3, or do you want to go?
No, why don't we spice it up a bit? Why don't I put in an actual wild card on the group? Why not go for it? He's not going to run between now or Cheltenham. I think this horse is cracking value for the Stayers hurdle. Flooring Porter. He reverses the form with Classical Dream. Doyle wildcard. There we are on the screen. Flooring Porter is 7 to 1 with 2 firms. We're not going to see him between now and Cheltenham. The 6 lengths at the start. He's beaten by 2 lengths. They come absolutely miles clear of the field. That was a very good race, Ronan. 21 lengths ahead of Burning Victory, who you like. And I just, if you were to break down Cheltenham last year, Honeysuckle was probably the best performance. I think the top 3 performers at Cheltenham last year were Honeysuckle, Bob Ollinger, and I think this fellow was right up there with the 2 of those in terms of what he done. We know he goes on track. I think he'll reverse the form with Classical Dream.
I suggest Allaho's performance at Cheltenham last year, just in case, because all the viewers have been screaming at the television there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for me, I was mightily impressive with that race in general. The Christmas Hurdle, Grade 1 at Leopardstown. And Flooring Porter, like, he's only a 6-year-old. 7-year-old now, is he? Or is he a 6-year-old? He's a 6-year-old still. Yes, correct.
No, he's 7 now. 6 turned 7.
Correct. Yeah, because you don't like 5-year-olds. But yeah, yeah. I think this fella will. He's gone in as a wild card, and I suppose I better give. But go on, you give selection number 2, and I'll come in with 2.
Yeah, another solid one, another Gordon Elliott one as well. I think Run Wild Fred has got an ideal profile for the National Hunt Chase. And as I said earlier on, ran really well. Not really well, but in the context of that race, I thought that mistake that he made was probably not recognised as much as it should have been. He absolutely went through the fence at the far side there. Still came back on the bridle, and he got picked off by Fury Road, who maybe I was a bit harsh on earlier on. You were saying he thought he was good. He could end up being good. I'd just be slightly sceptical myself. But Run Wild Fred, he's finished clear of the rest. He's got loads of experience, is what you want for the National Hunt Chase. He strikes me as a horse that travel really well. Gordon is he always likes to target one at the National Hunt Chase. Got a good record in the race, and it seems telling to me that he's going to go straight there with him now. So Run Wild Fred, I think he's available around 5 to 1 is the general price. So I want to get him involved as well.
Sticking with your County Meath horses, Ronan Groome. This time I got a County Waterford horse in here. Tell me something, girl. I need a couple of solid ones in here. It's a lot more open, the Mayor's Hurdle this year, than we've probably seen in almost a decade. Would that be fair to say? You have heaven help us in here, but I thought the run of Tell Me Something Girl, especially given the way Henry's horses ran over the Christmas period, she's come forward for her last run, in Punchestown. She's closed the gap. She was closing all the way to the line, and I thought she ran very well given the weight difference. You look at Royal Kahala, she's a mare I love. I backed her on the day to beat Heaven Help Us to win the race. I backed her to win. I thought she was a great bet on the day. But she disappointed at Cheltenham last year. And I just wonder with her as well, would she be... We saw mares running in the Stayers Hurdle. Would they be tempted maybe to step her up and trip again? Maybe something like a Galmoy Hurdle? And, does she go for something like a Stayers at that point? Or did they put her to the mares? It'd be interesting to see what they do with her. She's good going right-handed. She won a Fairy House. But I think the horse to take out of that race, and I think she's rock solid. Best price 6-1 for the Mayor's Hurdle. I think she's been geared up for Cheltenham. Henry obviously done fabulous at Cheltenham last year. So 6-1, Tell Me Something Girl for the Mayor's Hurdle. I'm getting her into the team. I think she's solid. I think she'll run a good race. And that's probably value. You want another one from me, don't you?
Yeah.
Go for it. Porticello, 14-1 for the Triumph Hurdle. Will they roll the dice? I saw some comments afterwards saying, would they maybe spare the horse? He's going to be a good chaser down the line. But I just think they have to go now. He's a Grade 1 winner, isn't he? He's won on an undulating track like Chepstow. In my eyes, he's the best of the British at this point, even though he's third or fourth in the market. Gary Moore, he is bold. He's not afraid to take on a challenge. And Phil Doer's far too short at the top of the market. So 14-1 Porticello. I'm going to roll the dice that they run here. And I think this horse has a huge engine. So if he does run here, 14-1, Porticello, I think he'd be bullied into it. And I think the horse he could be Goshen the second in the Triumph Hurdle. But this horse is a massive engine. So I'm putting them in. Porticello, 14-1. Back over to the Groom.
I'm kind of taking you on here to an extent, because I back in one for the Triumph as well. Now, he did run over Christmas, but his form was significantly enhanced by Porticello winning the finale. Night Salute is a bigger price than Porticello, and it's pretty much I'm pretty certain of this is because he's trained by Milton Harris, and Porticello is obviously from a bigger yard than Gary Moore. But Night Salute's unbeaten over hurdles. He's a course and distance winner at Cheltenham of the Triumph course and distance, and he beat Porticello despite racing keenly in the Summit Hurdle earlier on in a race that had no real pace, and he still managed to beat the Gary Moore runner. I think he's done absolutely nothing wrong over hurdles, and I'm just surprised to see him available at slightly bigger prices than Porticello, given the significant form boost that he's got now through that Howard now. And I do take everything on board you said about Porticello. He was impressive, but surely that brings Night Salute forward as well, considering he beat him at Doncaster. So I wanted to get him on board around the 16-1 mark for the Triumph.
So I'm going to put up a fourth selection, aren't I? And in the words of Jerry Hannon, El Jagore de Vasse. Yeah, she was good at Fairy House, wasn't she? It is a very, very competitive looking Mayor's Novice Hurdle. Brandy Love 8-1, Statuary 8-1, Aljagori de Vassi, best price 10-1, get her in the team. L.A. Bell, a horse I like also. Grangie. And we're speaking about horses like Love Envoy earlier in the show, but the ears on this thing. I think this thing could be a weapon. She travelled absolutely beautifully. Albeit, she's won a maiden hurdle. So Ronan Groome is probably going to think I'm bonkers putting in a horse at 10-1 that's only won a maiden. But given the Rich Richie, Willie Mullins record in this race, I think she's she's a big player here at 10-1, and I just love the way she moved through the race. She's a massive set of lugs on her. She's going to come forward. I think she's quite good. Came from France, so she's had two career starts and got off the mark over hurdles at Fairyhouse. And that's Aljagori Devese. Get her in the team, Ronan. 10-1 for the mares novice hurdle. Talk to me.
Yeah, I met Jerry Hannon at Fairyhouse on New Year's Day, actually, in good form. Yeah, she's good. She's good, and she's with the right man, so could easily be shorter than time. So I don't think you're too mad putting it up now. It's not a bad formula.
The one thing I would say about her, right? This thing is going to be some weapon over fences. I'd say next year she will jump fences. Now, look, you see that with the likes of Vroom Vroom Bragg, Benny the Jew, hurdles, fences, they're just good animals. Where are your eyes, Ronan Groome? This thing, in fairness, no, she did jump a bit big at her hurdles, but you'd be hoping she'd maybe did iron out her jumping a little bit, but she's a massive engine, I'd say. There was one actually, Ronan, and just on the horse that Willie has unleashed. You're talking about a lot of County Meath horses there.
Speaking to Darren Jacob last year, he really liked this guy.
Did you hear that? Okay. The horse that was unleashed at Tremor, Ronan Groome, was it El Fabiano or El
Fabiano?
El Fabonio. I don't even see it priced up for any of the races, but I think that's an absolute weapon of a thing. In the Simon Munir colours, it went off from the front, showed a serious El Fabiolo at Tremor on New Year's Day. Willie said it's as good a horse he ran in a maiden hurdle at that track. But the horse absolutely ploughed through the ground. Don't see it priced up for any of the novice races at Cheltenham, so it'll be interesting to see, but I think he's won certainly for the tracker again as El Fabiolo. I think that's a horse that's going to go a long way. But Ronan Groome, just to recap, give us your selections for this episode. Go through them again. Tell me the prices, tell me the horses, tell me the races. What did you put up on this episode? Recap.
Galvin 6-1 Gold Cup. Run Wild Fred 6-1 for the. Excuse me, Run Wild Fred could be shorter than that. I could be shafting you there. Just give me 2 seconds.
There was a Stewards inquiry into your Heaven Help Us 33-1, but we gave it to you. Go ahead.
Sorry, excuse me. 5-1 for Run Wild Fred for the National Hunt Chase. And Night Salute, I believe, is a 16-1 shot freely available. You can get 18-1 Night Salute, but seeing as you're a stickler for the rules, Barry Doyle, well, 16-1 Night Salute for the Triumph Hurdle.
Okay. 14-1 Porticello for the Triumph Hurdle for me. Tell Me Something Girl 6-1 for the Mayor's Hurdle. Al Jagori Devese 10-1 for the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. And I've put in a wild card. He goes straight to Cheltenham. Flooring Porter, the reigning champion, at 7-1. I think that's very good value for Flooring Porter. So he's my first wild card. So yeah, I think I've one left now, Ronan. You've two left. So you should see what you put in. That's a wrap, really, isn't it? We've done an hour on the bumper episode 5, 6, and 7. So we will be bringing you episode 8. So get your selections in that order. So put in 3 selections this week. Put in your selection for week 5. Put in your selection for week 6. Put in your selection for week 7. If you have a wild card, a captain, or a long range effort, don't forget the long range effort must be 25-1 or more. But have fun with it this week, because we did. We were given 3 selections each, and lots of time to kind of digest the Christmas racing. But look, best of luck. Continue to update your tracker in the comments, and we'll see you next week.
Inside the final 150 yards, this is a special year, and it's a Hattons for the break. And It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10-12.